coming out this Sunday night. It doesn't seem like night since daylight savings time started, though, does it? Our email address for comments, correspondence, and feedback. Website's there also if you'd like more information. Is Brahma going to do that the whole time? Brahma doesn't need volume. He's got that high-pitched sound. Everything is inspired by the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Aganati Paramidasya Yanagana Savakya Chatsuramitam Yanatashmai Shri Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Visham Sapitam Yana Bhutale Sayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Sarapanatikam. We want to talk to you about being God's or Krishna's underdog. We all face times when what we're up against is too big for us, the dream too great, the problem too strong, the opposition too powerful. People are going to rule you out, saying, "True, it's never going to happen. You don't have the resources. You don't have the finances. You don't come from the right family. True, the medical report is not good." In every game, there's someone that's favored, and then there's the underdog. Team that people consider as overmatched. Team that's not expected to win. And most of us can't help but cheering for that underdog. Am I right? Where does that come from? It comes from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. He's the source from which everything is born. So that impetus to cheer for the underdog, to see an upset, comes to us directly because we're parts and parcels of God, and because it's there in God Himself originally. All the facts say it's impossible. But Krishna, God, on purpose, will have you underestimated. When it seems the least likely, that's when God shows up in the greatest way. So our message is not to get discouraged when you're underestimated. It's a setup. Krishna, or God, put you in that position so He could show His power through His devotees in a greater way. When those who keep in first place defy the odds, then everybody is going to know that God's favor is on his life, because without God's favor, how could he have possibly achieved the impossible dream? So when you're outnumbered, outsized, out-trained, out-educated, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when people count you out. True, you're not talented enough. You're not tall enough. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. You're not experienced enough. And all that may be perfectly true, but what they can't see is what God embedded within you. All they're seeing is the outside, the externals, from a natural perspective. But you, who have been chanting the holy names of the Lord and serving Him consistently and faithfully, have something that's awakened on the inside. That's the seed of Almighty God's power. And that seed will take you to where you could never go on your own. So let's take a moment to water that seed right now. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Krishna, God, absolutely delights in taking underestimated people and doing something awesome through them. The reason that He puts you in situations that are too big, too strong, too much, is not to defeat you, but to establish you, to establish His power. So that when Krishna turns that situation around, defeats those enemies, when you discover the greatness that's inside you, when you step up and defy the odds, people are going to see you and he who you represent in a whole different light. That's moving you towards your God-given purpose, and it's also awakening others to the unlimited power of the Almighty. So when you're tempted to feel overwhelmed, outnumbered, inadequate, less than par, instead of giving up, here's the thought: have another perspective. I'm underestimated, but that's okay, because I know that Krishna God is up to something. I know favor is coming. I know new doors are about to open. I know healing is on the way. Krishna is going to defy the odds and do what only Almighty God can do. I feel like another round of chanting. How about you? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Don't get discouraged when you're underestimated. Embrace. Get excited when you're underestimated, because Krishna loves to take the underdog, cause him to shine. Someone said, and I think it's here on the board, there's no freedom quite like the freedom of being constantly underestimated. When people don't believe in you, when they're discounting you, writing you off, all the facts say it's never going to happen, you're thinking, aha, I'm in perfect position for Krishna to surprise everybody through me. This is exactly when God is most likely to show up and do things that will catapult me into my destiny. These are a few passages from the biography of Prabhupada, the founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In the preface, the scholar, I think it's William O'Connell from the University of Toronto, he says, like many true stories, this story is highly improbable. An elderly Indian Swami comes to New York City in the mid-60s on a vaguely defined mission, charged by his teacher in India to bring this spiritual message to the West. He arrives in New York with no prior knowledge of America, no base of support, $7, and no clear plan of action. He moves around the city for some time, apparently aimlessly, lives for a while in an artist's loft in the Bowery, and finally, with the help from a few followers, rents a storefront building in an area known as East Village, which is the heart of the 1960s drug and countercultural movement. And there, he begins to preach, imagine this, 60s countercultural, right? He begins to preach a message of sexual restraint, abstention from drugs, purity of mind and body, and in the interest of awakening devotion to the Hindu god Krishna. What follows, the prologue winds up here saying, is a remarkable tale of faith, determination, and success beyond anybody's expectation. We'll talk a little bit more about Prabhupada. What's going on now, Rita? What's going on there? Can you wait a little bit till we're finished? You're not accountable to God. It doesn't matter what other people say about you. They don't determine your self-worth. They may not believe in you or what you're capable of. They may even see you as less than. They may even say cruel, insensitive things meant to discourage you and to push you down, to discount you. But our messages, don't let those lies take you out. Don't let them seep down and take root. Don't live inferior, insecure, not pursuing your dreams. Let them go in one ear and out the other. They're underestimating you. But you know this principle. Krishna uses underestimated people. It's a setup. It's about to show out in your life. More about Prabhupada from his biography. At 7 years of age, 1965, he ventured outside of India to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. He suffered 2 heart attacks in the transatlantic crossing. He reached the shores of America with $7 to his name. He founded the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. They just barely managed to scrape together some funds to rent a little storefront in the East Village. It was all they could do to pay the rent and keep the things going. And Prabhupada had a whole bunch of them march to the lawyer's office and sign as witnesses and officers of the corporation, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Could you imagine? And this represented the only time in history that a Krishna devotee has successfully begun the process of training non-Indians in the strict disciplines of Vaishnavism, which means followers of Vishnu. And of course, as we know, this was achieved during the very heat, the very peak of the hedonistic countercultural movement. He sent his followers chanting the names of God in the streets, towns, and villages everywhere. Hare Krishna became a household word. He formally initiated between 1965 and 1977, 12 years later when he passed away, 5,000 disciples. We three are among those original 5,000. And of course, they represented a sweeping diversity of nationalities, races, ethnicities, and religious backgrounds. He established, during those 12 years, 108 temples on 6 continents, installed the deity of Krishna in each and every center, and trained his disciples in the process of deity worship. During 1 month's time, there were 32 temples opened in a single year. In a single year, not during 1 month's time, but in a single year, there were 32 temples opened between 1970 and 71. How was it that Prabhupada was able to do all that? Because he understood this principle. He was the underdog, but he was God's underdog. That's okay. That is the greatest position of power in the universe, to be God's underdog. You can call me whatever you want. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to offend me. People don't see what God has put in my heart. I know that according to the estimation of people, according to the estimation of society, odds may be against me, but I know something even more important, and that is that Krishna God uses underestimated people. He sets me up for a new level of my destiny. To reach your destiny, you can't listen to all the naysayers, all the critics, all the intimidators, all the can't-do-it people, nor can you listen to those kinds of thoughts in your mind. You have to know that on purpose, Krishna is strategizing in such a way as to cause you to be underestimated. People not believing in you, discounting you, feeling like you're in way over your head, that's a sign that you're right where you're supposed to be. Krishna is positioning you to do something you've never seen, to defy the odds, to go where no one in your family has ever gone before, to take new ground for the kingdom. But don't get discouraged when people don't believe in you, when people try to talk you out of it. It's good to be underestimated. It means God is about to catapult you to new levels. More about Prabhupada. We're going to be able to say if true, he finished the talk. If you think you can stop me from rolling on to this conclusion, you've underestimated me. Try as you might. Prabhupada created the world's first chain of vegetarian restaurants. He spoke daily, giving over 3,000 lectures on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Over 2,000 of them were recorded in an archive. He conducted hundreds of informal conversations on the science of Krishna consciousness with disciples, guests, and friends. Over 1,300 of those are archived as recordings. He had scores of interviews and philosophical discussions with news reporters, scientists, religious leaders, politicians. He met with world-renowned dignitaries and celebrities like Indira Gandhi, Allen Ginsberg, Ravi Shankar, Alice Coltrane, John Lennon, and of course, George Harrison. He recorded more than 20 albums of devotional music. He published a monthly magazine, Back to Godhead, which he called the backbone of the movement. At one point, during its height of its circulation, over 1 million copies were distributed in 1 month. He launched a life membership program that enrolled tens of thousands of well-to-do members originally in India, and then founded a spiritual city in Mayapur. All of these became sites of international pilgrimage. He established primary schools to provide education in the principles of devotional service, set up farm communities to teach simple living and high thinking, emphasizing cow protection and dependence on God and nature. He commissioned his artist disciples to produce hundreds of illustrations of Krishna's pastimes based on his own meticulous instructions and the descriptions in his books. He counseled his disciples on complex managerial, philosophical, and personal issues in more than 6,000 archived letters. This is 12 years between the age of 70 and 82. He was the subject of more than 30,000 archival photos and more than 70 hours. Thank you very much, Wallace, for being my wingman here. In the life of Prabhupada, Krishna was showing us this principle. He uses underestimated people. Now, you or yourself may be in a situation which some people think is impossible. There may be giants coming against you in your finances. It doesn't look like you're ever going to crawl out of the pit of death. Maybe the doctor's report was not good. You'd like to be more involved in the temple, but you're having a family crisis right now. Can I tell you, you're right where Prabhupada was. Thoughts are telling you there's no chance, it's too big, too complicated. You might as well turn around, give it up, throw in the towel, quit believing. No! Resist those lies. Recognize that Krishna let those odds be against you on purpose. He let you be the underdog so that when he turns it around, when you defy the odds, you come out promoted, healthy, happy, married, victorious. Nobody will doubt. Most High God had his wind behind your sails. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And here's a point. You don't have to have a big talent to do something big. You don't have to have great resources to leave your mark. You don't have to come from an influential family to make a big difference. But if you live thinking that way, if I had more talent, if I had more education, if I had more personality, if I had more money, more courage, it's going to limit you. Many times it's not just other people underestimating us. It's us underestimating who we are. It's not the size of the dream that's holding us back, but it's the lies that we're buying into in our own minds. I'm too small, I'm too old, too shy, too clumsy, not strong enough, my health not in good enough shape. Prabhupada, think of all the excuses that he could have made. All I have is the order of my spiritual master. All I have is $7. All I have is a case of these books. I had 2 heart attacks. I'm not in good health. I don't know anyone in America. We can learn one thing from Prabhupada. Whatever little you have in terms of talents, resources, and ability, Krishna gave that to you as your ticket to your destiny. A little more on Prabhupada, as if there hasn't been enough already. He wrote about 70 books on the science of Krishna consciousness, slept 3 hours a day. Encyclopedia Britannica proclaimed that his voluminous translations from the original Sanskrit and his lucid commentaries, quote, have astounded literary and academic communities worldwide. And this feat is even more astonishing considering that his translations and commentaries were in English, which for him was a second language. He founded the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in 1972 to produce his books. You can get some of those books from Vallabhachandra at the exit door tonight. By 2014, this is 2014, over 500 million literatures have been published in 87 languages and distributed in almost every country, making the BBT the largest publisher of Indian religious and philosophical texts. He circled the globe 14 times, visited 24 countries, inspiring his followers and making countless public appearances before multitudes of people. He skillfully managed, without the internet, without cell phones, his international society through him, even using the telephone. Well, what can we take from this? What can we learn? Not to discount what we have. Krishna will take the little. He'll take what seems like not enough, and the Almighty Lord will breathe into it. Then it will multiply. It will become more than enough. So my question is, what do you think about what you have? Are you overlooking something potentially valuable, potentially world-changing? Are you discounting what Krishna has given you? I have all the talent that I need. I have all the courage that I need. I have all the skill that I need. I have the right height, the right looks, the friends. I have the right favor I need. I'm not going to go through life thinking of myself at a disadvantage, that I'm lacking. I feel complete, whole. I feel that God's given me everything I need to do the mission that He sent me out to do. Similarly, I would encourage you not to underestimate yourself, to discount yourself. Don't talk yourself out of greatness. Krishna put that greatness in you for a purpose, and you would be amazed at how far you can go with what little talent God's given you, with what little courage God's given you, with what little faith, little determination that God's given you. He's put the odds against you on purpose. He'll put you in situations where you're the underdog, where everyone counts you out. You don't have the size, you don't have the training, you don't have the skills, you don't have the equipment. But the key is not to focus on what you don't have, because the danger is you'll talk yourself out of it. The right approach is that God, Krishna, your being for me is more than the whole world being against me. You allow me to be underestimated so that you can then show your power in greater ways. And when Krishna breathes on what it is that will grow bigger, overcome obstacles that look impossible, go places that you could have never dreamed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Finish up with a little personal story here. When Caru passed away in 1977, I felt that I should step up. In 1981, no one, including ourselves, expected to build a temple. We came from the radio station. As far as building temples, we didn't have the training, we didn't have the talent, we certainly didn't have the funds. There were no devotees in Utah at that time. It was a very small Indian community who are our natural allies wherever we go. Utah Valley was, and still is, pretty much 90% another religion. Overestimated? I think so. Outmanned? Outnumbered? I think so. When I do public speaking, when I'm not public speaking, I'm not very outgoing, kind of shy, reserved, kind of quiet. Back in Los Angeles, from which we came in order to arrive at Utah, plenty of people, including my own godbrothers, didn't think I had it in me to make a successful mission. Sometimes I even overheard people saying, "Oh, who does Caru think he is? Caru's a nobody. I don't think he'll make it. He'll fall flat on his face up there in Utah." Well, despite what they said about me, despite the lack of resources, somehow, Vaibhav and I believed that we had what little faith, what little determination, what little courage it would take. That we weren't moved by the naysayers. We didn't let the critics intimidate us. We had a little faith in what Krishna could do in our lives, and we were curious to know what more he could do if we laid what little faith we had on the line for the Lord. I'm standing before you tonight saying that Krishna is taken by Bobby and I further than we could have ever possibly dreamed or imagined. He's brought out gifts that we didn't know we had, opened doors that we couldn't have opened on our own, sent so many blessings that we don't deserve. So let me say to you tonight, don't discount what you have, however little it might seem to be. Because when Krishna breathes on it, it's going to multiply. New doors are going to open. Barriers are going to come down. Krishna's going to do things that you've never seen before. What am I saying? When you're underestimated, that means that God is up to something. Get it? When you're underestimated, it means God is up to something. He's about to show out in your life in a new way. Now, just do your part. Keep believing. Keep chanting. Keep stretching. Keep doing the right thing. And if you do, you're going to see unusual doors open. Divine connections, favor that catapults you into your destiny. Don't be offended if you're underestimated. It's all part of God's plan. The key is, it's okay as long as those lies are on the outside. But don't you open the door and let those lies on the inside. They're going to try to belittle. They're going to try to devalue. They're going to try to not give you the time of day. That's a test that you have to pass. You can fail the test and get offended and get upset and think, they're right, I'm not that talented, I don't have that much in the future. Or you can say, I'm the underdog, and that's okay. Krishna, you're on the throne. You're in control of my life. I'm going to keep honoring you, and I know that you will cause me to defy the odds and go places I've never dreamed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna could have chosen someone more likely to succeed than Srila Prabhupada. Someone who had more credentials, a younger person who came from a prestigious family, who had more connections, who had more money. Krishna could have chosen the kind of person that cynics would have put their money on. But here's a newsflash. Krishna doesn't care for the talking heads, the cynics, and the experts. Instead, he chose an elderly man in poor health with no money and no connections. Why? Because God loves to defy the odds. He wants to do things in the lives of his devotees that leave people scratching their heads. How in the world did that happen? Prabhupada writes, a devotee of the Lord is very kind to all people, all living entities. In spite of all their disadvantages, they try to give something, real knowledge to the people in general. A devotee is not a friend of a particular class, a particular community, or a particular country. He's a friend to all, not only human beings, but also the animals, and even less than animals. These are the qualifications of a genuine devotee of the Lord. He or she is no one's enemy, friend of everyone. Titikshava, Karunika. They are always peaceful. These are the qualifications of those who represent God in the world. And God on his side is very, very protective of such saintly persons who sacrifice everything for his behalf. These are very, very dear to the Lord. He cannot tolerate any insult towards his devotees. Just like a small boy, if you're a parent and you have a child, someone comes up to your child and slaps that child in the street. The boy himself, the child himself or herself may excuse, oh, it's all right. But the father will not excuse. The mother will not excuse. Why do you slap my son? That's the paternal nature that comes also from God. Similarly, devotees of the Lord, you can do any misbehavior to them. Lord Jesus Christ, when he was nailed on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He was willing to forgive them. Not so much God the Father. That's why Jesus had to ask, because he knew that God arm cocked and the thunderbolt ready. Lord, I know what you're thinking. I know what you want to do, but please give him a pass. It's okay. Devotees are very tolerant, but be careful if you offend devotees, because Krishna is not so tolerant. He's got that parental spirit. We must always remember that Krishna looks after and protects his devotees, gives them special favor, pushes them forward and upward, empowers them to become world changers, history makers. The Lord would rather see the devotees getting the credit, the devotees getting glorified, than to receive that praise himself. You'll find in the Bhagavad Gita, Samoham Sarvabhutishu Name Dveshan. Krishna is the father of all living beings, and as the father of all living beings, he doesn't have any special favorites. He's not against some, nor is he especially favorable to others, but he says, one who renders service to me in love and devotion, he or she is my special friend. So you may be the least likely in people's consideration, the one that no one expects to succeed. Our message today is, that's a good thing. That's a sign that Krishna is going to do something unusual. You're being underestimated on purpose. The obstacles are way bigger on purpose. People are discounting you on purpose. That means putting you on notice. Your time has come. Krishna is about to show out in your life. Don't waste your energy being offended. Don't get distracted. Keep doing the right thing. Keep chanting. Keep believing. Because what they say doesn't determine your destiny. What they think about you doesn't limit your future. Krishna uses underestimated people. I believe that if you kept God first place, you're going to defy the odds, just like Prabhupada. You're going to remove big obstacles, bring down barriers, accomplish big dreams. I believe that if you consistently worship the Lord by chanting his holy names, talents are going to come out of you that you've never seen before. Krishna, God, is about to do amazing things with you in this life. Next life, you're going to go back to home, back to God. Thank you very much for your kind attention. We battled through all the distractions and interruptions. We've arrived at our end point. Now, if anything resonated with you, you're invited to raise your arms along with me and say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you're coming for the first time, you're invited to stand and stretch and move towards the front of the room. Where are you going to lead? Avi's going to lead us in a traditional Arctic ceremony. Then we have some announcements, final prayer, and dinner downstairs.